I haven't been in the court, so good morning, your ladyships and my lords. My humble responsibility today is to deal with technology, and that is covered in the issues that were framed by the Honourable Court as 1, 2, and partially issue number 3. I have been listening to the submissions of my learned colleagues, and I will try not to repeat any of them except where absolutely necessary. I start by referring to Article 86 of the Constitution. 86 provides for voting, and I particularly refer to 86A. The method, the voting method, must be simple, accurate, verifiable, secure, accountable, and transparent. I also read out to the court Section 44 of the Elections Act, which provides for the use of technology. How this has evolved is a matter that has been addressed by my learned friends and is well known to the court, particularly this court that has rendered decisions in the same regard. Section 44 of the Elections Act provides that the use of technology in an election should be an integrated electronic electoral system that enables biometric voter registration, electronic voter identification, and electronic transmission of results. Section 39 of the Elections Act provides for the determination of the declaration of presidential results. And in this regard, it provides at 1C, for the purposes of a presidential election, the Commission shall, A, electronically transmit and physically deliver the tabulated results of an election for the President from a polling station in the constituency tallying centre and to the national tallying centre. Regulation 14 of the Elections Technology Regulations 2017 provides as follows. Information security. The Commission shall put in place mechanisms to ensure data availability, accuracy, integrity, confidentiality, as set out in the first schedule. The Court is aware of Raila Odinga and another versus IEBC 2017, where at paragraph 231, it provided and underscored the objective in the above laws. I will not belabor that. The technology envisaged by Section 44 of the Elections Act was intended to ensure an integrated and secure tallying and data transmission system which would allow computerized data entry tallying at constituencies, secure simultaneous transmission of individual polling stations, station level data to the national tallying centre, and the integration of the results handling system in a progressive election result announcement system. Two words that bear emphasis there is simultaneous and progressive election result system. Our submission in this regard is that the technology deployed by the IEBC for the conduct of the 2022 general elections completely failed the standards of a secure, transparent electronic voting system, and thereby yielded what has aptly been described by my colleagues as an unverifiable, inaccurate, and therefore invalid results. Our further submission in this regard is that the technology was so inherently corrupted, manipulated, and tainted that the results declared by Mr. Chebukati, the third respondent, cannot be in an objective case said to be representative of the true will of the Kenyan people, as we and as I will demonstrate in my further submissions. On the evidence, the components, principles that ought to have been met in order to meet the constitutional standard of a secure and transparent system are as follows. Confidentiality is the first one I propose to deal with. This requires that the information within the process, and I'm not talking about the public portal, I'm talking about the back end, should have been accessed by only those legitimately authorized. And those authorized, in order for them to be accountable, are persons whom the entire commission, in its, as defined by my colleague Paul Mwangi, the entire commission ought to have been fully aware of, gazetted where necessary, and it would certainly help if they were also Kenyan nationals. Integrity is the information used should be accurate, complete, protected by various and protected from malicious modification, which includes alteration or obstruction, either by authorized or unauthorized persons. Availability. The information required must be available as and when required by those authorized to use or access it in compliance with the constitutional requirements and the Elections Act. Non-repudiation. An audit trail must be maintained on activities related to the information. An audit trail in this regard is, should the court so require, should a party so require, it must be readily available in the appropriate manner. Authenticity. The information itself must be proved to be genuine, and the source must also be proved to be genuine. I submit, on behalf of the petitioners, that on the security aspect, there was lack of security. The first instance that demonstrates this is the operation and use of the IEBC and availability to, I repeat that again. The first is operation and use of IEBC election materials and equipment to identified unauthorized persons. And I'm referring in this regard to the now infamous Venezuelan nationals. I will elaborate on that in a few seconds. The second is the penetration by way of hacking and illegally granted access of the IEBC system by known and unknown persons. I distinguish between hacking and unauthorized grant of access. Hacking is where a person outside the system doesn't have the key, and I'm using the simple illustration, and so he accesses it through the roof, room through the roof or the back door, and he enters the system. The illegal grant of access is a situation where the codes, the credentials that are otherwise legitimate are granted to unknown persons. In the case of the now infamous Venezuelans, there is plenty of affidavit evidence on record, and I particularly refer to the affidavit of Martha Karua, the second petitioner, dated the 21st of August 2022, which contains or encloses the statements by the DCI, and of course the rebuttal by Chebukati on behalf of the IEBC. Your Ladyship, my Lords, I also refer to the affidavit of Juliana Cherera. I also refer to Annexure JC3, the National Police Service press statement dated 22nd of July 2022, Annexure JC4, press statement by IEBC chairman dated 21st July 2022, stating that the 3 key personnel responsible for the deployment and management of elections infrastructure and that the 3 Venezuelans were employees of Smartmatic International BV. I also refer to the Annexure JC5, press release by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations dated 23rd of July 2022, detailing the crucial election materials irregularly and illegally found in the possession of 3 Venezuelan nationals. Their names: Jose Gregorio Camargo Castellanos, that is one name, one person; Joel Gustavo Rodriguez Garcia; Salvador Javier Sosa Suarez. Those were the persons named in the detailed Directorate of Criminal Investigations report. My Lords and Your Ladyships, I would like to emphasize that the Directorate of Criminal Investigations is the national institution charged with the responsibility of investigating crime. Crime in relation to the Penal Code, the Elections Act, all crime. And that evidence, the statement by the DCI regarding the Venezuelans, is not a matter that can be taken lightly and wished away by the chairman of the IEBC. I will deal then with the issue of the penetration or the compromise of the IEBC system. And I ask the court to look at the affidavit evidence of John Mark Gidongo, 2 affidavits or 3 affidavits; Benson Wesonga, an IT forensics expert; George Njoroge, IT forensics expert; and the forensic analysis of the DCI of a laptop confiscated from one Kip Ngosos at the National Tallying Center. I also asked the court to look at the affidavit of Justice Nyangaya, who is one of the commissioners. Which responded? Sixth respondent. Thank you. I will summarize the affidavits. The evidence of John Mark Gidongo, he has sworn 2 affidavits, one on the 21st of August 2022 and the other on the 28th of August 2022. In his affidavit, at paragraphs 2, 3, 8, 9, and 10, he talks about the illegal access into the system and manipulation of the presidential results, how it was orchestrated and implemented. At page 4, paragraph 12, he produces evidence of a video recording. Page 8, paragraph 16, he witnesses how he saw this young person illegally and very easily access the IEBC system, where he was able to see information including that of his name and other accredited observers at the IEBC National Tallying Center, and pages 13 and 18 of certain screen grabs. In the affidavit dated 28th August 2022, page 2, paragraph 4, John Gidongo clarifies what was given to him in the first affidavit, but more importantly, at page 2, paragraph 6, he produces the actual logs that were used to show access to the system. I wish to make a short submission regarding the evidence of John Gidongo and the transcribed interview he had with this young person. And I'm discussing this in the context of the probative value of that conversation he had with this young witness. It came out that somewhere, somehow, in the current suburb, there was a group of about 50 people who had access to the ICT systems of IEBC, whereby they were intercepting results before they were uploaded on the public portal. When that was put out and the responses first came, that suggestion was rubbished. But in further evidence, I will demonstrate to the court that it now turns out that that is probably and most likely what happened and what created this entire mess that is called the election results of the 2020-22 presidential election. In the case of George Njoroge, whose affidavit is on record, whose CV is on record, a computer forensic expert with wide-ranging experience in investigating all manner of crimes, including those involving terrorism, through investigating the IT aspect. In his affidavit dated 28th August 2022, he has attached his detailed audit and analysis report of IEBC results transmission system and operating system log files. And I emphasize that amongst those he analyzed are the logs annexed to the affidavit of Justice Nyangaya, who is the sixth respondent and who was the commissioner of IEBC in charge of ICT. I emphasize this because it tells us the logs, that information from the logs, comes from within the IEBC, the first respondent. And therefore, it must be taken as correct. Indeed, in one of the witness statements we have, or affidavits we have from one Mr. Nyaga, in various affidavits, together with Mr. Uma, they are defensive, together with Mr. Chebkati, they reject the suggestions, but when the logs from Mr. Nyangaya are finally analyzed, they are suddenly, in particular Mr. Nyaga, forthcoming. In the case of Mr. Nyaga, and I will refer to his affidavit, his first reaction is to suggest that they have been illegally obtained and a crime has been committed and somebody should be prosecuted. In fact, the DCI should take action. That is an admission that at all times something vital to the verification of the process was being withheld, not only from this court, from the entire Republic of Kenya. George Njoroge has provided a detailed audit and analysis report, and he, at page 1, paragraph 5, confirms that he analyzed the log files. Page 11 shows the image application for each of the 6 IEBC servers that had information. And of course, at this point, I'm hopeful that in the scrutiny, the same 6 IEBC servers shall be availed by the IEBC as quickly as possible. Page 3, which is the part of the report that confirms several authorized individuals were illegally authenticated to gain access into the core of the live system. Several authorized individuals were illegally authenticated. We'll go and demonstrate that, because authorized could mean you are within IEBC, but illegally authenticated, you have gone well above your pay grade. Page 14, 40, page 14 of the report, 14, 40, and 41, confirms that there was evidence of remote access to the system on the 13th of August 2022. 13th being 3 days after the voting. Remote access means somebody outside the walls, virtual walls of IEBC. In other words, somebody somewhere sitting out of the system has the key and can log in. Transmissions of numerous forms from a single host server whose IP address was given or is given as 172 full stop 21, full stop 5, full stop 4. Contrary to the expectations that the forms would come from various KIMS kits directly to the NTS public portal. I illustrate this, or I explain this by stating that Mr. Chepkati, chairman, went on record as saying this is a very simple system. From the constituency level, it shall come to the National Tallying Center, onto the portal that is public. He has no intervention whatsoever. He can't stop it. It comes. To the extent that I remember one conversation on in one press statement, he was asking the press, "Why are you so slow? You know, I'm faster than you." But that is how it was supposed to happen. But the evidence will show that we have provided that there was an illegal, malicious, and unauthorized existence of commission staff who are not officially gazetted and mandated to be part of the electoral process, but who had access. Page 15, and one of them I should state now was his personal assistant, whose name I shall provide shortly. Page 15 shows that there was evidence of, this is important, there was evidence of downloading and conversion of the forms from the system and thereafter uploading them with new information. Your Ladyship, my Lords, I explain this by saying a Form 34A has been uploaded from the constituency level by the returning officer. Before it hits the front end of the public portal, meaning the side that we will all have access to, it is downloaded, it is changed, converted into a system known as CSV, which is comma separated values, that's what it means, which is an editable format from the original PDF format. PDF, we all use that abbreviation without getting what the meaning. It means portable document format. The PDF cannot be edited, whilst the CSV provides the opportunity, the facility for editing. So if one were minded, that is the point, and we submit that is what happened when the numbers are changed within the Form 34As. Otherwise, there would have been no need for downloading the system, the documents, and uploading them after a bit of time, sometimes hours, sometimes a few seconds. Page 16 and 21 shows a continuous generation and regeneration of 35C, yet 35C was 34C, yet 34C was supposed to be generated only once, at the very end of all the information from 34B coming in, and of course 34A. Page 17, this is an important component of our submission. There was overwhelming evidence of back-tallying of presidential results. This means that a Form 34C was being generated with a result, a desired result, and thereafter what seems to happen is a process of going backwards to change Form 34B and 34A to give the result that was desired. This happens continuously, and it is illustrated very well in the evidence of Mr. Njoroge. What is obvious, but bears repeating, is that the process, the system was only supposed to work forward going, not by way of back tallying, meaning 34A, the aggregate of the 34A was to create the 34B, and the 34B aggregate would create a 34C. Once 34A, as many as there are polling stations, etc., going forward. But what you see from the report of Mr. Njoroge is after the voting, until the results are announced, far too much activity, all starting with the generation of a 34C. The analyst is not able to know exactly what is going on, but it can be surmised from the abbreviated logs that show you're seeking to generate a document, and in computer parlance that means you're seeking to edit something, you're seeking to change something. My hypothesis from where I stand is, and I'll state at the very end, clearly a result for the first respondent, that is Mr. Ruto, was being arrived at well before the tally was in. And each time work was being done to try and fit A and B into that result. And through the confusion, because people who engage in such exercises make mistakes, at the very end, the result is forced on Kenyans through a defective 34C, where the commissioners cannot agree, and Mr. Chebukati walks and says, it doesn't matter, third respondent, it is my result, and you can tell what you want to the birds at Serena. So, the process ought to have been, ideally, 46,232 Form 34As ought to have been generated into 291 34Bs, and in turn have generated one 34C. However, you will find, your ladyships and my lords, that an analysis of the logs shows several regeneration of 34Cs, which in turn lead to what I have just described. But at all times, you see a downloading of 34As in the CSV format, which is the editable format. Page 20, 21 and 22 show that as of 21st of August 2022, the hours are 15:48:33 seconds. A Form 34C had already been generated. I repeat that. As of 12th August 2022, 15:48 and 43 seconds, a Form 34C had already been generated. The results were hardly in, according to IEBC. What was the business of anyone within that system generating a 34C? We were 2 days away from the final announcement. Page 23 also shows that similar transactions as the one on 12th August 2022 was done on the 14th of August 2022 at 3:57 and 1 second. Page 23 shows that Form 34C was received in a PDF format at 3:57:01. Thereafter, instructions issued to the system to receive data to create 34C. And thereafter, an action of starting document Form C generation is commenced and finally was successful. Page 25 shows the above action was repeated on the same day at 4:1:33, and it goes on and on. I don't wish to take up too much time. It is all clear. Page 65 shows on the 14th of August 2022 at 15:34:12 there is an ambiguous and intentional modification overriding the whole process to finally generate Form C document. Data from Form 34B is then entered only once into the Form C, when there should be several entries to the Form C on different dates. Page 15 shows that there's a presence of illicit data in the presidential tallying system. Illicit means unexpected. There was plenty of Form 35Bs, which should not have been in the same portal. I move on. This you will find is repeated on and on. Page 43, 76, and 77. We see IEBC personnel who were not gazetted for the purposes of the restricted and accountable access to the system were granted access to the system. In particular, the personal assistant of the chairman of the third respondent, Mr. Dickson Kwanusu, is granted access. As a rejoinder, we have seen a belated authority to have such access, which is well after the election. But he is not gazetted, so he is invisible. This court, if we hadn't brought the logs, it would never have been known that Mr. Dickson Kwanusu had wide powers in this system. So, whilst in this dispute, we may not see the fingerprints of the third respondent in the ICT system, we see his palm, his much larger presence through the actions of his PA. Indeed, you will find, when you study the system, that Dickson Kwanusu performed a purported verification process of 34A's 1,743 times. The same scrutiny revealed that at page 28, one Abdi Dahir, who was not gazetted and who is belatedly granted access and privileges to the system, purportedly verified 659 Form 34As. Yeah. So, I ask the court to look at the affidavits of Ben Wasonga. He is also another computer forensic expert. His evidence is substantially the same as George Njoroge. I will ask the court to note that the tender documents did provide that whoever was to provide the system was to be able to provide a KIMS kit that would provide compressed color photograph images using a compression technique that is in compliance with JPEG. However, the court will find that all finally displayed Form 34As were in black and white. I will shortly mention that it becomes evident that there is interception of data. It's called a man-in-the-middle or machine-in-the-middle attack, and it gives probability and great it supports fully the evidence of George Njoroge and John Githongo that in fact the system had unauthorized persons. I would go quickly to the evidence of again Benson, who in his affidavit shows that there was not only one foreigner involved, there was several of them, and the ones I had mentioned earlier, and throughout the process of counting, several of them were involved as super administrators. Super administrators is the power to even create and join servers to the system, change, alter documents, delete documents. This is at page 2 of paragraph 9 of the affidavit sworn on 28th August 2022, where the super administrator, in this case the one J.C.A. Murgor, who occasionally uses a different name, is able to create user accounts, install applications, change user roles, assign resources, read documents, write documents, modify or edit documents, and delete documents. I honorably suggest that it shows that this election was controlled from everywhere except IEBC And I have read the affidavit of Mr. Chebukati. He suggests that the Venezuelans felt harassed after their arrest and left the country, but I respectfully submit that they remained fully connected to the IEBC servers. I have said page 3, paragraph 8 shows the unauthorized users accessing the system, a total of 6 of them being, I found the page, is C. Silva, Josio, Vito, JCA, Margo, Ogudino, and J. Lugo. I conclude by saying, what is the response of all these very serious allegations? I say that we get it from the affidavits of the 4 commissioners who have differed with the chairman. They have stated categorically that that whole system was created by was controlled by one person, the third respondent. They were kept in the dark. Mr. Nyangaya, who was in charge of ICT, was also shocked that foreigners were controlling the system and had access during and after the election. And I point out that Mr. Chebukati did not offer this to the court in his replying affidavit, and it only was offered through his subordinates when the evidence was availed. I conclude by submitting that what we have before the court is clearly a corrupted, and I'm not talking about a person, I'm talking about the verb, a corrupted and compromised RTS system which does not meet the demands of the Constitution and the Act. And it is only a matter that will be determined after scrutiny whether something can be retrieved from the system, which includes, and we focus on the results that were first uploaded onto the KIMS kits. Perhaps that's where we will find some truth. But whatever got to Bomas of Kenya was totally corrupted, I submit, by corrupt IEBC officials. I lastly point out that you will find in the affidavit of Mr. Benson Wasonga, Smartmatic, by some strange coincidence, is reportedly mired in several controversies in the management of elections technology around the world, including Venezuela and the Philippines. So perhaps that makes them unqualified to most of us, but makes them eminently qualified for the fraudulent objectives of the first and second respondents. Thank you.